Fashion People on 938 Live.
An instrument crafted with precision down to the finest millimeter, watches are Alvin Lye's passion. Having fallen in love with a mechanical alarm wristwatch that buzzed like an antique alarm clock some 15 years ago, Alvin has since opened 2 watch-related companies. Monster Time sells pre-owned watches, while his latest baby, Azimuth, sells avant-garde watches designed by himself and his co-founder. He shares how his passion for watches started with his first one.
My first watch was actually, it was a 1930s vintage piece that I paid something like $200 for it.
And how much were you earning?
I was taking home about $1,400. Yeah, so it's actually a big percentage of my but you know, if it's a passion, you don't really think about the hole in your pocket.
Well, you could have just pursued your passion for watches, set up a company.
I think it's a natural progression. I mean, that is the best form of watch collection, you know, being a watch dealer, because being a watch collector, you can only accumulate so many, you know, and then I would like to believe that most people's finances are finite, you know, so they have to stop somewhere. Whereas for a dealer, for me to deal in vintage watches, I have the privilege finding new watches all the time. And then even though I may only own it for a short period of time, but I actually own those watches. And then when I supply a watch to this customer of mine, you know, you can see the joy. I actually found it, you know, at long last. I've been searching for this watch for the last 5 years. Or my granddad used to have the same watch and he passed it to me and I lost it, you know, and then now I found it, you know, something similar to this. So that kind of joy that you know, you see is actually worth it. You know, any different vintage watches, you know, it makes me happy.
Designs watches. What made you think that your company could appeal to
this? That a lot of the Swiss companies, they started to increase their prices year on year and year on year, until such a point that a lot of my customers gave me feedback that they can't afford a nice, complicated wristwatch anymore. So one day, Chris and I sat down. That was back in 2004. And we joined heads and said, look, I think I can produce something nicer, you know, if not nice as this watch and this watch and this watch. And then with our combined years of knowledge in the watch industry, we had our contacts in Switzerland, you know, and we started finding out about how we can create watches and stuff like that. We said we had a little bit more passion than what we thought, you know, so therefore we started Azimuth, you know, to create watches that are very unique, different, and yet will not like cost a bomb.
Why is your passion for watches only limited to mechanical watches?
A part of the watch is hand assembled. Okay, so you can say that it's a man that sits on the table that puts everything into like various hundreds of parts, and then there is a human being that's going to put everything together and then at last assemble into the watch and do the QC.
So do you do that with Azimuth watches?
I used to when it first started, but now we have actually a professional team of people to actually do that for us. Simply because there are too many. You know, like we used to produce a couple of hundred watches back in those days in 2004. So Chris and I would sit there and do the final QC after the watches have come back to Switzerland. But now, because we are producing a lot more watches than a few hundreds, so we just don't have the time to actually do the final QC. Plus, there are other more pressing issues in the company that needs our attention.
And what's your involvement in the watchmaking process now?
Well, Chris and I, we are still very much involved in the design stage. You know, so all the watches that in the future watches that you see actually are from brain. You know, and we are the one like what to produce. Like, you know, when we did the discussing about our passion for tin toys. Yeah, there was a robot-inspired watch, and then we said, look, you know, wouldn't it be interesting if we could like make a little watch that looks like a robot, you know, on your wrist? And then we did the design, the research into the movements and everything, and 2 years later, Mr. Roboto was born.
Well, we can see that you have a clear passion for wacky designs, but do you plan to stay indie forever?
Yeah, we do not intend to take a big market share. I mean, like, it's never our intention. And it's never possible, you know, because the pie is so big. And then we also do not make watches for the mass market.
If you don't do it for money, why are you still in the business?
Passion. We love to design watches, and we like to convert non-believers, into believers of our brand, and to see them see a customer, for instance, in public, when you go onto a plane and you see the guy next to you wearing an Azimuth, so that's what gets us going, It is not in the business, we are actually in the business to create nice watches.
Well, not to make money from selling luxury watches.
Well, we need to make money, in order for us to keep going. But the sense of the word luxury means that a lot of people will not be able to afford it. But like I said, affordability is relative. Whatever we produce has a value, so this value usually is more than what you actually would pay for. You see, so we actually give people a lot of bang for the buck. If you ever compare another Swiss company with an Azimuth, apple to apple, like in the complications and things like that, you will always see that the Azimuth is a lot more friendly for you to purchase. And you will find that a lot of things that are existing in other watches, you will still find in a lot of other Swiss brands. But a lot of the Azimuth watches that you buy, usually they are standalone watches, which other Swiss brands will never actually an invention by Azimuth.
So what would Azimuth's role?
Okay, the watch industry is now very, very saturated. I mean, there are always new brands coming out every year. But to be able to survive in this dog-eat-dog world of Swiss watchmaking, I think the companies need to have a USP, a unique selling point. They need to find a niche, because let's face it, the new companies that are going to come out are never going to be as big as your SMH, your Richmond Group, that owns all the brands that you see now. So you need to come out with something that all these companies that they own do not have. And Azimuth has found our niche. We are known as a company that's very avant-garde in our design. The watches that we come with are very unique. Azimuth has got many firsts in the world. Our spaceship, the module that's inside the spaceship now is actually an invention by Azimuth. Our Back in Time, which is a very simple round watch with a single dice, is also an invention by Azimuth, and something like that.
Only time will tell if Alvin Lye, founder of Azimuth, boys in the watch industry with his highly unconventional designs. Well, this segment of Passion People was produced by Fang Shihan, and I'm Joel Chua for 938 Live.